20 years from the day you first joined community theater. Now you are one of the queens on Broadway. You've been on tour with Six for almost 2 years as well. Before that, you were a cast member of Here Lies Love. Your debut single released last month.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
We're all excited. I think earlier this year, you came across a picture of you watching The Lion King, I think when you were 12 years old. And upon seeing that picture, you told your mom that I'm doing everything I said I wanted to do. Not many people get to say that. So now, 20 years later, you just spoke about how when you first started performing community theater, it matched the singing, the dancing, the storytelling for you. Now, 20 years later, now that you've seen so much, you've been a part of so many different productions, had so many different experiences, has that love evolved over time? Is there a different reason now that you're in love with musical theater? Of course, you've seen the insides of the business, the good, bad, and the ugly as well.
All of it.
All of
it.
Has that changed the reason, or do you think you're still attracted for the same childlike love that you had the first time?
My senior year of college was during the pandemic. And I remember having a chat with my class, my cohort of 12 students at Penn State University. Yeah. We had a chat with another Penn State alum at the time who had so many Broadway credits to his name. And he still said, Broadway is the same thing you're doing right now, just on a $20 million stage, or however big the budget of the production is. And it reminded me that I also read recently, slight tangent, a Tara Rubin quote. Tara Rubin is a wonderful, wonderful casting director in our industry. And she had said, remind yourself that you are always an artist, even if you are not currently employed as one. And as we know, this industry is so inconsistent. And it is a dream come true. And it is also one of those things where when I was on tour, I realized I am living my dreams, but I'm also actively aware of how much I'm sacrificing every day in order to live them, and being on tour, being away from family for the holidays, things like that. So it's interesting because there is such a duality to all of it, of being fully aware. I have those moments where I still to this day have those little pinch me moments on stage. And then there are of course other times where I'm like, oh, this feels a little more like a job today. My body isn't at 100 right now, but I still have to show up and do the best job that I can in the show. And that's all I can ask myself of is doing the best that I can in that particular moment. But as a bit of I definitely have some high standards for myself. So we're not going to get any lower than a certain bar. Otherwise, I'm just not gonna, it won't be acceptable. It won't be acceptable. But circling back to your question, it was about the differences of just, spanning 20 years of performing and whatnot.
Whether that love has evolved over time.
I would say it continues to exponentially grow. And as we age and gain wisdom and whatnot, it also becomes a little more complicated too, just because as I become more and more of an adult and be independent with more responsibilities, it isn't just fun. It's a passion, but it's also my livelihood at the same time. And so I recognize the wonderful position I'm in to be a part of a very successful long-running Broadway show that is Six. But when I did Here Lies Love, which was my Broadway debut last summer, dream come true, all Filipino cast, history making, but our show stayed open for 6 months. And the goal, of course, of any show, I think, is to, try and make it to the Tonys. But with the way that we opened in July of last year, we ended up closing back in November. And that's the sticky part of the business. That's the part that makes you remember it is show business. It isn't just fun and games. Even though on stage we have the best time and we're creating such meaningful art, there is also a component to it where it's like, the show has to make money. And unfortunately, Here Lies Love was one of those productions that just couldn't find the right footing at the time. I think Broadway was ready for a show like that, absolutely, because it was so revolutionary. I think it was ready. I think there was just some steps that were not taken or could have been taken differently to position the show in a different light. But I'm so proud of that show. I'm so proud of it. But it's one of those, it comes with the territory of being in commercial musical theater.
There's a common saying, don't make your passion your profession. You just spoke about...
Whoopsies.
Yeah, you just spoke about the challenges of this becoming like work. There are, obviously this industry in particular is quite physically and mentally exhausting. when you make this your career, there's obviously going to be the long hours, a lot of physical effort that goes in this. You mentioned there are some days where you just might not be in the right zone to do it. The industry you just spoke about, Here Lies Love, this industry is quite fickle as well. Things might end overnight. That might bring some stress and anxiety with it. Is this a challenge, like you have to keep balancing all the time, that there's a danger of these different externalities, the logistics of it, and these negative, which I guess is negative variables that come with any job, coming and corroding the magic or the love that you had for the industry in the first place?
It comes with many jobs, yes. This industry is one that I've had to actively remind myself that I've chosen this lifestyle. Yeah. And my father, when I was a little girl, cautioned me. He is a very practical man. I love him very dearly. And I respect his logic. But when I went to school, he was like, I would like you to major in musical theater and business. So you have options. Yeah. And that, unfortunately, based on some various timeline situations, pandemic, taking a leave of absence during school, it did not end up panning out for me that happened. Luckily, that has not had to be an issue in this moment.
So far.
So far, not going to challenge. But it's one of those things that I've talked to friends about too, because like some people, their work is they work so that they can live. And then I think the general American concept is that a lot of people live to work because we just love working so much. It takes up so much of our time. But it's interesting. I was talking to a friend who she's a data analyst, and she works so that she can have time to travel and like live her life and do other things. I don't necessarily have the luxury of taking time off whenever I want. It's very complicated. I would say Broadway and musical theater is a pretty greedy industry, in that they expect us to work on, maybe not on Thanksgiving, but we are working the day before, the day after. We are working perhaps on Christmas Eve, like things like that. And it's one of those things, I'm like, it comes with the territory to be able to live my dreams in the way that I live them. There are also sacrifices that I have to make. But it's interesting too. The conversation we were having where she was like, being a data analyst is my occupation, but I don't introduce myself by saying, hi, I'm Courtney, I'm a data analyst. I don't necessarily say, hi, I'm Jasmine, I'm an actor, but I do say, I'm Jasmine, I am an artist. Like that is a core part of who I am. And you can't take that away from me. You could take the actor away, but you can never take away that I, at my core, am an artist. It's who I am. It's part of my being. And so that's, I think, the difference of passion and profession. It's like, but it is me. That is who I am. And so it's trade-offs. There's trade-offs to everything.